Well, the report also recommending that Parliament consider introducing a constituency-based electoral system. Well, let's get some reaction to this, and we're joined by One South Africa movement leader, Mmusi Maimane. Mr. Maimane, thank you very much for your time. Music to your ears that the Zondo Commission has recommended in this fashion.
Good morning, and good morning to fellow South Africans. Certainly, if we want to end state capture, we need to give power back to the people. A constituency-based model allows for citizens to be able to directly elect their MPs, but much more important than that, it means the mandate they carry isn't derived from a party, it's derived from the people, which when I read much of the Zondo Commission's work, you'll recognize quite quickly that many of these issues Parliament knew about. But eventually, when people are asked to hold those responsible to account, whether it's SAA, whether it's the president, whoever, that people vote as per party line as opposed to the interest of the people. Whereas a constituency-based model would mean, even if I go against my party, the seat I hold is not from the party, it's from the people. And it's only the people that can remove. So to me, I think this is such a crucial step. If over and above the criminal prosecutions, all the issues that have been cited as to who should be charged and not, the administrative duty is to reform the Electoral Act to give power back to the people.
Yeah, those electoral reforms, Mr. Maimane, I think a deadline has been given, particularly for the government to make sure that they are processed at least by December of this year, if memory serves. We're going to talk about exactly what is contemplated there versus what the State Capture Commission of Inquiry chairperson is saying. I've just had a conversation with the EFF representative in studio here, and she says she thinks that the commission chairperson is overstepping his mark here. If anything, he's probably anticipating that the ANC won't be in power in 2024. They simply don't understand why he had to be so, quote-unquote, far-reaching in his recommendations.
Look, I think without doubt, the problem is, I'll use a very practical example in this instance. I can remember at times in my former role as leader of the DA that I would arrive in municipal offices where the DA was in government and wonder why suddenly there were a lot more DA people there than there should have been. Because suddenly, naturally, state capture isn't always corruption. State capture begins in deployment, in being able to send people to parties, party position into administrative positions, because when they are there, they eventually do the job of the party. So to me, it is not a far-reaching conclusion. It is a natural conclusion to say, if you want to safeguard accountability, free the state from party capture. In the ANC and the Zondo Commission, it was a capture of a president who captured a party that captured the state. And naturally, all you just need is buy one and get the whole party and the state for free. Whereas I'm arguing strongly that if we don't do these actions, I promise you now, we are going to have state capture in a different color. It could be blue, it could be red, it could be whatever color you like. But it is going to continue because that's what naturally happens when political parties are supreme and not the voters.
Yeah. Contrast for me then, Mr. Maimane, the differences, if there are any, between what the State Capture Commission chairperson is recommending here, constituency-based type of an electoral system, versus what has been proposed in any case, that the electoral reforms be changed in order to allow for independent candidates. Is there much of a difference?
It's a significant difference. First and foremost, they haven't gone for a proper demarcation, which means that it's not constituency-based at all, it's provincially based. Now, if you do that, I don't know how you hold someone accountable in a province. You might as well just keep it national. So that's the first failure. The second is that the threshold of votes for an independent to be able to be in parliament becomes much higher, than that of a political party, and they can only accumulate votes within a province as opposed to nationally. So that needs to be reformed. And thirdly, because of the absence of a constituency-based model and retaining the provincial infrastructure, as it were, it means that over a long period of time, actually the parties are the only ones who are beneficiaries of the proportional representative model. So rather than going for the 300-100, which is what Van Zyl-Slabbert proposed and is mentioned in the report, they are simply going for, if at best case scenario, 200-200, but even in such a case, the independents do not qualify for the proportional aspect of the vote, which means the parties remain dominant. And so once you've got more people on a proportional space, then the party can still direct what those people can and cannot do.
Yeah.
And so to me, I think that's an important aspect. And then the last bit that perhaps has got the constitutional amendment, which is where I think the Zondo Commission has gone further, is to say, well, there must be a direct election of the president. That would require a constitutional amendment because the president is elected by members of parliament. And the two current bills that are before the Standing Committee for Electoral Reform cannot consider that because they're not considering constitutional amendments.
Yeah. Final question to you, sir. And very briefly, if you can, I can't not ask for your thoughts. This report goes to parliament in 4 months' time. Should South Africans trust that parliamentarians are going to do what the citizens of this country want as opposed to partisan action? But also, I suppose, linked to that is the importance of how this report, it's adopted, and particularly its recommendations and findings are adopted in a manner that future-proofs this country from corruption.
History is the best predictor of future behavior. Parliament has failed. I think the people of this country must protest, must actually symbolically stand up in petitions, send petitions to Parliament, insisting that processes of criminality must take place. Lastly, so long as you have a speaker who is linked to a party, Parliament is never going to do its job because that speaker has to protect the party. If whatever action it is, whether Mantashe, whoever it is, immediately action should have been taken, but he's senior in the ANC. So how can a speaker who's ranked lower than him actually hold him accountable eventually? It's not going to happen. So what I'm suggesting is that the people must take their power. They must now petition. We must take to the streets, and we must ultimately end up in court processes to ensure that the criminal proceedings are effected against those who stole from our country.
Mmusi Maimane, leader of the One South Africa movement, calling for an activist society to now see to it that this report and its recommendations are indeed implemented.